Did you know that value is defined as the importance, the worth, or the usefulness of something? Hey, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about knowing your value. Now, typically, when we talk about knowing your value, our minds immediately go to our job title, our hourly wage, or our salary. But value is much more than that. Did you know that it's actually defined as the importance, the worth, and the usefulness of you as an individual? And when I think about those three components, my importance, I don't want to put that in the hands of an employer. It's not up to them to determine how important I am as a person. My worth, they don't know what my worth is because I was created by an infinite and all knowing God. So I don't want to put my worth in an employer's hands either, or a salary. And then the third thing is your usefulness. There are times when you are not viewed as being useful. So again, I don't want to put my usefulness in the hands of someone else. This topic is on the top of mind for me because, as you all know, I recently made a transition from a long-time career that I had into focusing on my family, staying home with my daughter, and doing things to build my business. And it made me think about the journey that I have taken in my professional and personal life. And what I began to notice about my journey is that each step of the way, at each transition, I realized that I really aimed too low. And I really did not value myself, nor did I value the investment that I had made into myself, nor did I value who I was as an individual and the unique things that I brought to each of the environments that I got to work in. As a little girl growing up in Chicago, I knew at a really young age that I wanted to be a teacher. And then I knew that I wanted to go ahead and be a counselor. And when I finally achieved those goals, it really made me ask myself, why did I want to become a teacher? Because when I was a teacher, when I actually was doing that dream and living that out, I realized it was not what I thought it would be. And the same thing was true when I became a counselor. But I realized as a little girl, I did not have exposure. I did not have proximity to all the plethora of things that I could have been and all the things that I could have done. I just simply did not have access to be able to dream bigger, to be able to envision myself doing something greater, something that I did not see in front of me. So subsequently, what I ended up aiming for was what I saw. And you all can see the problem with that, right? Because if all I see is low achievement, mediocrity, and unsuccessfulness, what would I have had to aim for? But glory be to God, He kept me in the middle of my dream as a little girl and let me receive some blessings through hard work, faith, and diligence along the way. And like I said, when I became a teacher, I was excited to be able to give back to kids because I saw that myself in the kids that I got to serve. But you all know, when you become a teacher, how much you make, your salary, your peace, and your job satisfaction, it's going to depend heavily on the communities that you're serving and what kind of district that you're working in. But for me, I ended up serving primarily communities that were low income and children that were high needs. Now, that was the joy of my heart. I cannot tell you, even though being a teacher was extremely difficult, it was heart-wrenching and very exhausting. I was excited to be able to pour into the lives of those kids on a day-to-day basis. And I feel extremely blessed and privileged to have been able to do that. But I will say again, this theme of aiming too low still was looming in my perspective as a teacher. And it came out in the fact, or it manifested itself as me not advocating for myself when there were needs that I had in order to more effectively serve my students, or me being afraid to speak up or ask for what I needed to be able to serve the kids, or to ask for things that the kids needed in order to get the most out of what I was offering to them as a teacher. Again, aiming too low and not knowing my value really impacted that. And it ended up in me burning out. So when I left the classroom and went immediately into training and leadership development, I'm telling you, the whole world just opened up. Because I had spent about 7 years of my life, in my 20s, building this career as an educator, building my ability to support families and to support other teachers. I was so hyper-focused on that I did not know what the possibilities were. Again, I did not have proximity and I did not have exposure to the possibilities. But when I left the classroom, I saw that there were so many things that I can do in education, and so many different ways that I could serve parents and teachers and students and advocate for them and do things that were even more deeply meaningful and aligned with my purpose and more impactful that I had never discovered. And what happened was, for the first time in my career, and this didn't happen until I was in my 30s, but for the first time, I made a salary that I was not ashamed of. Now, if you would have asked me about how much I made prior to this transition in my life, I would have had a tremendous amount of shame, because my salary was so low, and honestly, you all, I was barely making it. But I began to get titles that were not as shameful. I began to get increase in responsibilities, and I began to see an increase in my salary that it felt good, right? It's supposed to feel good when you're beginning to be rewarded for the value that you add. But the problem with that is, because I had waited so many years and had aimed so low for so long, when I began to start to make money that was not shameful to me, it became a part of my identity. Now, like I said at the beginning, I am a proponent that money cannot define you, titles cannot define you, the things that you have should never define you. But because I had spent so many years in shame, I was not paying attention. And I began to feel a sense of security, a sense of dignity, and even in some cases, a sense of pride about the work that I did, about my title, and about my salary. Now, dignity and feeling good about the work that you do are great things, and I think all of us should have them. But I crossed a line, unbeknownst to my conscious mind, that I would later have to detach from and detox myself from. So when it came time for me to make a decision about transitioning from a regular full-time career, it was a challenge, because I didn't know what it would be like to be spending all day and having my child completely dependent on me, to be her teacher, to be her mother, to be all the things and not have a job to go to get a break from my child. And as the weeks and months went on, that I began to live out and live into being a stay-at-home mother, that low self-esteem, that missing the mark in my value began to surface because I began to reflect. Because no longer did I have a salary, no longer did I have a human manager telling me, great job, Ladella, people really loved it, and that was so impactful. Now, all I have is my faith in God, His Word, and the seeds that I'm sowing into my child and into my family. And those things are not always evident, and those things you have to dig for sometimes. So as I began to reflect on myself as a mother and as an individual and ask myself the question, Ladella, what is your value add? What value are you adding to your family? What value are you adding to your world? I began to realize that no longer could a salary define that for me. No longer could my title define that for me. No longer could my network define that for me. I had to get solid and grounded and founded in my intangible value that I bring to every environment that I come into. And that was the journey that I began and am on now, and want to invite you to join in. So in this whole process, I began to think about, okay, since I don't have these traditional things that are dictating to me my value and what I'm adding to the world and what I'm adding to my family, I need to find out and discover, how do I live out my value? How do I own my value? And how do I celebrate my value? And I want to share some tips with you on how to do that. The first thing that I was reminded of was going back to this idea of my purpose. What is my divine purpose? What was I put on this earth to do? And I want to ask you that question. When you're thinking about the value that you add at your job, or the value that you add at your family, or wherever it is that you get to serve, what is your divine purpose? What is the unique thing, the unique set of experiences, the unique set of mindsets that you have, that God has given you, that no one else has, that you bring to this world? I want to encourage you, when you think about how valuable you are, don't think about how well a project went on the job, although that's good. Don't only think about how disciplined and obedient your children are, although that's good. Your main focus should be the divine purpose that you have and how you are living it out, how you are perpetuating the divine that has been imparted in you. And that will be able to sustain you when you're not getting the feedback, when you're not making the money that you want to make, when your house is a mess, when your children are being disobedient and embarrassing you. When all of that is happening, if you center on your purpose and how you are leading in that way, you can be rejuvenated, you can be revived, and you can settle in knowing that I am valuable. The second thing I want you to consider are your unique giftings. Now, I know that I just got through talking about your purpose. There's a difference between purpose and giftings. How I like to think about it is, your giftings lead you to your ultimate purpose. So an example of this might be someone that is an amazing vocalist. Like, you have a voice that sounds like birds, that sounds like angels singing, and when you sing, people just cry and scream and just cannot believe how gifted you are as a singer. But your purpose might be to sing songs of healing for those who have been hurt from past relationships, from those who might be experiencing hardship. Your gift gets you to the place where you're facilitating your purpose, which might be to bring people to the place of healing. And giftings are also unique to each of us, but giftings are things that we must cultivate, they're things that we must strengthen, and they're things that we must reinforce. So, in the middle of the gifting that we have is an opportunity for growth. So instead of focusing on my job, there's no room for growth, there's no room for promotion. You have an opportunity to focus and own your gifts and build your own growth within yourself, within your abilities as an individual. And don't wait for your boss to recognize your gifts. You have to know them, you have to recognize them, and you have to celebrate them for yourselves. And I guarantee you, when you focus on cultivating the giftings that you have and growing those, the promotion will find you, the growth will find you, the new opportunity will find you, and the peace that you need will find you. Hey there. So I know the ending of this video feels a little bit abrupt, but I just wanted to come on really quickly and ask for your help. Would you please help me get the word of encouragement and inspiration out to more people by liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel? When you like and share and subscribe to my channel, one, it lets me know that something that I'm sharing here is adding value to you. And then secondly, it allows me to reach more people that might need hope and encouragement, especially in the days that we're living in today. So please, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. That way you'll always be in the know when I post new videos. And I think it will also send a message to YouTube, letting them know that there is a hunger and thirst for more positivity and encouragement and hope on their platform. So thank you so much for coming back onto this video. We'll pick it up in part 2 of this video. We'll pick up on the third point on things to consider when you're assessing your value. And like I always tell you, when you start with the hard work first, everything else gets easier. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.